You see, you got router 1 here. This is simple iVoice router. This router, if there is a route to reach some destination, it will simply pass the traffic in. But if you want a router to act as a firewall, you can do that. How? We will put this interface and this interface in different zones. Different zones. What I'm trying to say in simple word is, even if you have route, no traffic is allowed to pass through the route unless we write some policy in allowing the traffic through this. We call it a zone pair. We need to pair this zone, this two zone, and say, in this zone pair, I wish ICMP traffics to go. So, condition, you have a route and ICMP only is allowed to pass through. Or you may say, no, ICMP is vulnerable. It opens doors for the attacks. Then you can say, fine, I want only for those HTTP, HTTPS, TLS, all web traffic. So people from here, let's say inside your organization, can go outside only for web access, no other access. So fully safe. If someone is trying to send some files, not possible, because you have allowed only web traffic. So through FTP, if someone is trying to dump something in your database, which is inside, not possible. Because FTP, you didn't allow. You allowed only HTTP or web, all web. When I say web, it includes TLS, the latest version of HTTPS, fully secured, or normal HTTP, all web, www kind of thing, only allowed. This is very strong firewall. You did not buy ASA firewall or Palo Alto firewall, but still it is more equal to those firewalls. Now, what is the difference between those firewalls and this router turning into a zone-based firewall? See, in here, you have to do everything by your own. We have to do everything by our own. Nothing is allowed by default between the zones. So you need to think and write down those permits, those permit statements between these zones, within this zone pair. So you need to do zoning, you need to do zone pairing, and you need to write the policy between the zones and put it inside the zone pair as a policy. So everything you need to do. Whereas in firewalls, you will have some predefined privileges. For example, you see, this is inside. This is inside. You put it as inside because it's your inside. Meaning, you do not want this zone to be too strict. This is inside. You know this side of the router is safe. So in ASA firewalls, for the inside you have some freedom. Not everything is blocked. If it is inside zone, you are not blocked. But the other zones are zero security, zero trust zones, except inside. All other zones are zero trusted. Whereas in router, Whether it is inside or outside, zero trust. Zero trust. So firewalls have got some additional features which is not there in routers. In firewalls, you can do few things very easily, some security related policy configuration, whereas in routers, it is going to be a little bit tougher, not that easy. For example, NAT. In ASA firewall, you have more granular NATing than a normal NAT and PAT that you see in iOS router. In iOS router, you have static NAT and PAT, port address translation, which is also a dynamic NAT, called as a dynamic NAT. That's all you have on a iOS router. Whereas in ASA firewall, we have auto NAT, after auto NAT, and much more. In the early days firewall, there were a lot like identity NAT, zero NAT, destination based NAT, a lot of things were there, but now it is refined. What I'm simply coming to say is you have more features in firewalls than you turning a router to be a firewall. Because the router is meant to do routing. The main focus is on the routing. So all the features of routing is available here, whereas firewall is for only protection. But some routing feature is also there, but more of firewall features there. Here, more of routing features. So for a small company, you need not to really spend money in buying a firewall if you have the patience and knowledge to do zone-based firewall. Zone-based firewall. Zone-based firewall will allow you to create zones. Means you are allowed to create zones.
Jay,
And yes,
one question. Jay, you said we can make router as a zone-based firewall, right?
yes.
So, uh, so does the router have to be XR router or XC router,
No,
or it doesn't
normal
matter?
iOS router itself so support it.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. All right. So normal iOS router will also different zones. Different zones. You may put more than one interface in a zone. One port, more than one port in a zone. Members of same zone will communicate without any policy because they belong to same zone. Members of different zone, you need zone pairing. In zone pairing, you need to have policy to allow traffic. Uh, did you understand what I said in the last 2-3 statements?
No, Jay, could you say
Let
it
me
again,
repeat.
please?
In a router, if you have, let's say, 10 interface, you can put 3 interface in a zone. And this 3 interface to communicate, if there is a route in the routing table, that is enough. There is no problem in communication because there is no policy needed between the members of same zone. Same zone. Let's say zone 1. I have F00, F01, F02. On an F00, I have 10.0.0.0/8. F01, I have 172.16.00/16. 2.168.0.0. These are the subnets. Now, the members of these subnets, they can ping each other, they can communicate because they have because they are in same zone, because they belong to same zone. We have put them in same zone because we want them to communicate without any policy written. That's why we have put them in this zone. But when you have another zone, zone
When if these subnets are in one zone, we don't need to write a route or something, is it? They can
see,
communicate.
no, they will have route in the routing table
Okay.
because they are directly connected. They will have route in the routing table, or the routes that are learned through this interface will be there in the routing table. They all can communicate. But the routes that are learned through, let's say 20.0.0.0, the routes that are learned on this interface via this network from remote will be there in the routing table, but they will not be, no one from this interfaces, no one that is connected via this interface can communicate to those that are connected via this interface. In simple term, if I need to say, you see, got a router, and these three interfaces are inside zone 1, and there is outside zone 2. Inside, you may have many networks. This A can ping this B through the route in the routing table because the root is in same zone. But B cannot
So
ping.
we don't need a policy as such to allow
Correct,
a ICMP or something.
correct. They can have free communication as usual, as normal, because they are member of same zone. The route A is learned in the routing table. B is also learned in the routing table, and they can talk. See, this is not VRF. You have one common routing table for both zone 2 and zone 1, but still, the routes that you learned from internet, though it is there in the routing table, will not be reachable for B and A unless we write a policy, because they belong to two different zones. You need to do zone pairing. We need to do zone pairing first. And under the zone pairing, we need to write a policy and say, if this policy matches, if this is the traffic under this peer, you can allow. You see? So you cannot have an interface as a member of more than one zone. Only one membership. You cannot have one interface in two different zones. And you need to write a policy uh, to allow the traffic. This is called zone-based firewall. This is not available outside Cisco. This is Cisco's feature. Zone-based firewall, ZBF. It is available in every simple single routers. But why not people much known about this is they do not want to promote this, even though it is there. They want to promote their firewall. So even in curriculum, you will not find this. You will not see in syllabus. But this is,
The concept zone-based firewalls, I heard it's also available in Palo Alto, Jay.
see, the terminology zone-based firewall will be there. But again,
Okay.
Palo Alto is a firewall. Of course, in firewall, not only in in Palo Alto, it is also in ASA firewall or any Juniper firewall. Every firewall is zone based. Every firewall they operate in this manner. Every port will be assigned to a zone. Not only in Palo Alto. Again, I'm telling you that is firewall. Here we are talking about router. What I am saying here is
Okay, okay.
zone-based firewall on a router you will not find under any syllabus. Even though it's a wonderful feature which will save your money, um, see for simple policy-based routing for security, you have you want to write policy. You don't need to buy a firewall. You can simply make use of the existing router to achieve that. But I used to see the ASA firewall. I'm talking about the old ASA firewalls, not the next generation firewall. The ASA firewall, which is literally you doing the same thing what the Cisco iOS router is doing in zone-based firewall. I do agree, zone-based firewall, little bit extra work you need to do on a Cisco iOS router. And firewall, you had some luxury there, easy to do. But what I'm trying to say is those firewalls, the olden days ASA firewall or olden days PIX was before ASA firewall. Whatever they can do, this router based zone based firewall can also do. They could have avoid buying an ASA firewall just to do those functions. But because they are not aware of this feature called zone based firewall, they end up in buying such boxes. But today, ASA firewall is a next generation firewall. I'm not saying no, that is not important. That is very important. Today's next generation firewall is like it's like Sophia the robot, which is roaming around in various places that you might have seen in YouTube. You know how it works. That Sophia robot, it is getting updated every minute, every second, every millimicrosecond with informations around the globe. Even though it is sitting in a room in one place, the artificial brain of Sophia is getting updated with the events that are happening around the globe. Yes, that is what. Okay, so it is it is it is becoming a superhuman nowadays, and that's how it is going to be. Though it is sitting silently in a place, the brain is everywhere. Brain is in London, brain is in America, brain is in Afghanistan, brain is everywhere because it is connected to the net, and every event is getting updated. So the knowledge is definitely going to be bigger than the human knowledge. Likewise, today's ASA firewall is connected to the internet, to various groups which is working for providing security. So the firewall that you have today, the next generation firewall, it is like a computer without internet. But when you connect it, configure it, your firewall is like a laptop which has got the internet on it now. So if any attack happens in one part of the world, immediately the mitigation to prevent that attack, the patch is developed either by automation or through some group of people who are working on that, and they immediately push the patch to all ASA firewall around the globe. Like Sophia is getting updated, this ASA firewall gets updated instantly. Even though attack was not happening to your company, it happened somewhere. The mitigation solution to prevent that attack is already in your ASA before attack comes to you. As a result, known attacks is not possible anywhere. Only one place if it is known. One example I'll give you. There's an example. There's a company called Thales. Umbrella is another example. These are all group of companies that are working with Cisco who immediately provide solution to those attacks that happens, and that mitigation is pushed immediately to all the customers who have purchased the firewall. As a result, the attack never happens again anywhere else. That's why I say today's ASA firewall is equivalent to the laptop which is connected to the internet. When you have a laptop with the operating system, no internet, you will not even have patches, no upgrades, nothing happen. It's basic operating system. With that, you can only play a few games which is by default given by Microsoft. You cannot watch any YouTube videos because no internet. It's simple standalone laptop. But when you connect internet to the laptop, it gets the update for Windows, it gets the update for all drivers. You can also communicate to the external world. External world can communicate to you. You will get a lot of additional facilities when you connect to the internet. Same way. When an ASA firewall is standalone, you have to do everything by your own, like you do in zone-based firewall on a Cisco router. So you don't need to buy that ASA firewall now if you're not willing to connect to the internet. You can make use of your own router, but today's ASA firewall are more robust, dynamic. Now you buy the firewall, you connect it to all those cloud services so that you'll be fully protected. And your job will be very less in protecting your company. All that you need to do is you need to subscribe to those cloud services that interacts with the ASA firewall that you have, uh, that will dynamically push those necessary mitigations, patches, signatures, so that when an attack is about to happen, the device will recognize it as an attack and mitigate them. That is what we call this next generation firewall. Next generation firewall doesn't mean that it's a newer version of ASA. Next generation firewall means the firewall that is connected to all those cloud services, uh, which will push the policy signatures to mitigate the attack, which is reducing your work. So now we cannot compare a zone-based firewall to ASA firewall or any firewall because today's firewalls are very big. But olden days, ASA firewall was like a standalone laptop. Was not connected to any cloud services. On those days, we were not even thinking about cloud service. When I say those days, I'm talking about 2009 period. Those days, ASA firewall was like on standalone laptop without internet. So on those days, people could have used the zone-based firewall instead of a ASA firewall. A normal router converted as a firewall, which is doing both routing as well as firewall job, and we could have saved that money. So if your firewall is a standalone, or the firewall service that you're expecting in your company is just a standalone firewall where you need to do everything by your own, then I tell you, you can try this zone-based firewall before buying that firewall, the standalone firewall. That may solve the problem. So in our next class, I'm going to do a configuration and show you an example how the zone-based firewall can be configured and how it is effective, equivalent to a firewall. Now, did you understand what I delivered today?
Yeah.
So
Okay, sir.
in
I'll go through the video again.
okay.